Hello guys, in this video I will quickly show you how to add the model that we prepared in the last couple episodes into map geometry and give it some collisions so you can basically, let's call it, interact with it. For this I would recommend you to open the resistant camp map. How to do that I should have showed you in the first episode on how to navigate everything, but I will show you again. I have it already opened, but for you go in Blender, File, Import DTT file for Nier Automata, and inside your WD1 folder of the extracted Nier data there should be a file called G11420. Let me find it here. G11420. Let's click this away and just import DTT. Basically it will then open this map, and yeah, this may take a while, so yeah, just be prepared for it to take a while to load. So once this is open, the first thing I'm going to tell you now is what some things here mean, what this in general is, and what to do from here on. So the first thing I'll tell you now is the colors. Basically everything with colors that you can see here, the pink stuff here, the red, the green and the yellow, is collision boxes. So green, for example, is basically your completely normal collisions. Yellow here, let me just see, pressing N opens the view menu where you can also see collision tools. The yellow stuff is essentially this, block actors. You can hover over this and can basically see what it is. The green stuff is the scrappable block all. It's the basically normal collisions. The green one, that's the one that we will be using mainly, because the other ones are for other things, basically not for putting normal objects in game, let's call it that way. There's also like red, which is again block all. It basically blocks everything that goes into it, stuff like that. There's also this pink stuff, which sadly at this point is called unknown. We do not yet know what it does. It's still getting a bit reverse engineered, but yeah, we won't be needing that. So what we do from here is we go into our scene collection, scrolling down. The resistance cap has a lot of things, so this might take a while. And we will see a collection called COL, which stands for collection. I always like to just press the I on that to have the collections be gone so I can see the whole map. This just makes it clearer to work with until we get to the collisions part. And from here on we will just search for a nice little place to put our object. I would just recommend you to put it here in the middle of the resistance camp, because that's just easy to access, and yeah, it's a pretty big area and it will just work. So what do we do now? So the first thing I'm also going to tell you now is to not change anything in here into like a different way. If we take this whole thing and move it to the left, it will be to the left in game 2. We do not want that. So what we do here is to not manipulate any of this at this time, at this point in time. You could indeed like remove a building, but we will just focus on adding something first now. Stuff like removing collisions to get to a new area or something like that. We will do that in a different video. So we go to import and import the model that we made the last time. So go to model and import our model. This will import the model we did last time. This might take a while. Is it imported? I don't know. I don't see it yet. It's imported. It's a bit small, that's why. So we import it and we take it to the middle here. So let's just, it's not right in the middle. Let's get it up here. Then I would recommend you to just give this a bit of scale so you can work with it a bit better. And in my case, because I have chosen this model, I will just, because it's like perfectly aligned to do such a thing, take it and stick it into a wall. I've done this in my first ever mapping video too, like with textures, but I just think that it may be better to just show this again. Put it into a wall. You can take your object anywhere you want. Could stick it in the middle, into the tent or wherever, but I just chose to do it here because I think this looks okay. So from here on what we are going to do is we will take this object, which we can now see is in our list on the very bottom and is called like this. from here on, it's pretty much almost the same as with the weapon tutorial. We will look into its materials. There are none. We look into here, look that there are no like UV map things. Let's just refresh this once. Okay, yeah, there is a material. So the material is warm and Kanjili for me. I will delete this. I will make sure the UV maps are called like this. Delete the color attributes. And that's basically it. Now we are prepared. So now you may be asking, yeah, but there is nothing to replace, like in the weapon model tutorial. That's because we are going to create the object we will be replacing, because as before, the game cannot just put this into the game. It needs some additional data that we cannot just create. So what we will do here is we will take some object of the map. I always like to take the ground and copy that. But, and now comes a very important point, make sure that once you have selected the object, in the top left you can see its name, to make sure that the number behind its name is a 0, because that's essentially the level of detail, and if that is like a 2, 3 or a 1, it may not get rendered if you enter the zone. So just make sure that it's a 1. Then left click that object once you have selected it, duplicate it, move that somewhere, and then move it above the map. This is now your duplicate of the object that you just had selected. So from here on, you will select the object you want to add. In my case, it's my model. You then shift select the object that you have duplicated and you Control J. So you join them. These are now one mesh. The little sword I have and this. So now it's basically the exact same as in the weapon tutorial. You go here, you do edit mode, you delete the vertices of this so they are gone, and we can go back into object mode. Let me just refocus my camera here real quick. So, oh man, I hate planner controls sometimes. I'm not that familiar with the controls of the camera here yet, so excuse me please. So basically what we can see now is that our object now has the name of the old thing plus these little duplicate numbers. Let's just find our object in this map. It should be 24, so pretty much very high up. So here it is. Now you may be asking, because if we go into our viewport shading, hey, how do I get my textures onto this? This is basically also the same as with the weapons, but we cannot just put our textures in the little like printer symbol like last time. Instead we have to duplicate this material, because if we replace the textures on this material, it will basically put these textures everywhere in the game, which would mean that this bottom would be replaced with our textures, which wouldn't be a good idea. So how do we duplicate it? Basically what you do is you select your material and press on this little button that's right next to the X called new material. Press the button. This will create a copy of that and just name this any way you want. I will just call it tutorial material. Boom. Now we have tutorial material, which kinda still looks the way it did in the original, but that is not a problem right now, because now we have a new material that we can actually add our textures to. So we go into the textures folder, and this is now going to be a bit more complicated than last time, because we have to change something else. So what I would recommend you to just draw this a bit longer, and now we press on fetch all materials. We can now search for our name, which we just set as tutorial material. We can already see it here. And you can see that this material has a couple more of maps. What we will do now is we will not use this material. So we will just delete it here, go here. I would recommend you to get a different material. For example, in this map, I know that, where is it? No, not this one, not this one. Where is concrete? No, not concrete. Low material, this one. Just get low material, press the copy button again, and rename that into something else. I will just call it weapon M. Just give it some indistinguishable name, and we can now go into the printer again, fetch all materials, and search for the new name. We can now see that this material only has these maps, which is exactly what we want. Just copy some material and make sure that only like one albedo, one mask, and one normal map is existing, because otherwise it might get too confusing. Press the sync identifiers button just in case. And now, before we do anything in here, we need to replace the identifiers, because basically this number is the identifier for this texture, so it's a variable. So there is another material with this identifier, and if I now replace this texture, it will replace this texture on every material that has this as an identifier. So basically you have to change this into some hex number, which means from like it has to be 8 letters long and can only include letters from A to F and numbers from 0 to 9. So what I will do here is I will just call it A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do the same for the mask map. Call that different. For example, B, E, D, C, 1, 2, 3, 4. And call this another thing too. I will just call it EF, EF, 1, 2, 1, 2. Make sure it's 8 letters long, or rather 8 symbols. Letters are things that are not numbers. And now, before you press any of these buttons, press the sync identifiers buttons again to tell Blender to sync these identifiers so it does not replace the textures anymore. And now we can just select the textures we made last time. So go into your model, and let me just look. I was on albedo, so diffuse. Then the mask map, which is our mask map, and normal, which is the normal map. And now you can press the sync Blender materials button. And now you see that this is now our texture. Don't worry about the ground maybe changing its texture or like looking different. That is in most cases just Blender. If you made the error, you will see it, because then the ground or any object else here will look very, very different. So yeah, you see that now our texture is here. And you may be thinking, yeah, but that's cool. Can I just put this in game yet? Yes, you could, but it would not have collisions. Our plan is to have collisions. So what we do from here is go to our printer again, close the textures folder. We don't need this anymore. And for now, we will just use this. Go to our WD folder here and just select directory and one-click export all. Now, very important, I would recommend you to save beforehand. Just call this something like this. I just saved it as untitled. I always do that for these projects, but save it as a blend file somewhere, and then Window, toggle the system console, which opens this little icon here. And you can now just select these things. We will not select any of these because we don't need them yet. You can now press one-click export all, and you will maybe see that this will fail because we have not done one thing, one very important thing. It will fail in a couple of seconds. Just give it some time. In case you're wondering why I'm showing you that it fails, it's just to showcase this. So basically there's this error now, which says invalid interval with a base 0. Which basically means something is named wrong. And that's our object. We have to go into the scene collection again, where we see this. Now the problem is, if you now just remove these little zeros at the end, it will replace the normal 24 thing and give that thing the zeros. So what you do here is press the object button in the top left, click on Nier Tools, and recalculate object indices. This just renames everything to a number below it, and then you can remove the zeros, making it indistinguishable. And now you can just press this button again, give it some time, resize the window if it doesn't show anything. That's some weird Windows bug for some reason. Yeah. I'll just export this and show you, because we will just see in game what happens if we do not add the collisions yet. That may just be interesting. You can put technically things like invisible wall, a wall in game that doesn't have collisions but looks like a wall, to just walk through it and stuff like that. Or if you just want to like add, let's call it some like grass or something that doesn't have collisions but you just want to walk through it, you can do it this way. But we will also add some collisions onto this later in this video. Let's just wait. it exported 5 files, which means that it's now done. So we can now open our game. I will just show this to you. You don't have to like open your game or anything at this point. I just want to show to you real quick how it looks. Give it some time. By the way, while we load all of this, I really hope that I somehow improved my microphone right now. I changed some settings around and I think it should be better. As I said, I'm not that experienced in this yet, so just excuse me please. So we can now see that everything here is fine and that the object I just placed there is now here. Now our problem is that I can jump through it, which, if you know, shouldn't be happening with something that's here. I can just jump here and nothing happens. So what we will do now is in Blender, and now I will tell you about. Okay, so now that we have confirmed that our object works in game, we will add collisions. To add collisions, go back into Blender, and now that's very important. I'm actually recording this video for a couple, I think this is the 5th time recording the collisions part of this video. Make sure that you go to the GitHub page of Nier to Blender to Nier, download the newest version and update your add-on. Because there was a bug that in the collisions did some things not quite right. Yeah, I just talked to the dude that essentially maintains the plugin. Shout out to Woeful Wolf, which is pretty good at this. Update your plugin and then continue. So, what will we do now? Select our object, press copy object by going right click on our object, and then press somewhere in the void. Now we will turn off on collisions and disable the WMB. We will now see this beautiful colorful rainbow mess. So now we press paste objects, press into the void again to deselect it, press on the object again, and we can now go into the material, delete this, delete the UV maps and delete the color attributes. What we do next is we search for a ground part that we want to use. Basically I will take this one. We duplicate it, make sure that the 0 at the end is still like that, because it's still the same as before. Turn that up so we can actually edit on it. And now we will just select our object, our new model, and shift click the ground. Control J to join those. This is essentially the same as before. And we go into edit and delete all the vertices of the ground. To just duplicate it. And now once we go here, let me just so quickly do this. Once we go to our object now, we see that there is now a green version of our model, which is called somewhere around this. It's basically called the same way that the ground that you just copied was called. We go down here now and we see that this thing is now 33 hex 0.001. And there's already 33 hex. So what we do now is go to Object, Nier Tools, and recalculate the object indices. This is exactly the same as before and just remove the zeros. This should fix it. So now we go here into the printer, and because we already have the textures and everything exported, we can now basically export the collisions only. So disable WMB, WTP and WTA. And DTT. Now you have that and call, because this goes faster, so you only just click on the one-click export all. This should take like 5 to 10 seconds now. Or 15. It's a bit random sometimes, just give it some time. I don't know why it's taking this long for me now, but now it's exported 2 files. Now we can go into Nier Automata and confirm that it's working. The very important about this step is that the collision that you want to add, our object for example, the collision box, the green thing, cannot have more than 65,000 vertices. So basically, if for some reason you're importing the whole world from a different game, You can't just turn that in a collision box, because if it has too many vertices, the game will not accept it and you can't export. So just make sure that that doesn't happen. If it does happen, you will make a collision box yourself using cubes. Basically just have cubes where the collisions are supposed to be. And now once you go near your object and just like jump onto it, you should see that it has collisions, like just now. See, there are no collisions. I'm just slipping off because, yeah, a lot of vertices and it has this slope, but you can see there are collisions now. So, yeah, that's how you put your model in game with textures and have it given collisions. Always remember to, before doing anything, check if there are updates for Nier to Blender to Nier. And I guess that's it. See ya.